Today we got a little short video for y'all about how we LS swapped this 95 Chevy 1500. I'm gonna go down the basic steps to get it completed. This truck had a 4.3 V6 and a nv3500 5-speed. So we're gonna run down a list of what all it took to LS swap this truck. First primary thing, as y'all see me laying under here trying to get footage for y'all, is changing out the fuel pump. So 95 and below, the fuel pump is not sufficient. So you can take a EP381 fuel pump and you can put it in these trucks and that'll be sufficient for the LS swap. Next step is figuring out what you're gonna do with your fuel filter. So as you see here in the back, I left the stock lines. I ran my new fuel lines from the front of the fuel filter to the engine. You see I did stainless braided lines, and these are Russell fittings that you're looking at right now. And I ran those all the way to the back of the intake. Here you can see the fuel lines that run from the fuel filter all the way back to the back of the intake. Those as well are Russell fittings. I actually made those lines myself. It's not very hard. By the line and by the fittings, and then you just need a vise and some wrenches, and there's a few YouTube videos to show you how to make your own fuel lines. It's not very hard at all. All right, the next thing was the engine mounts. We used the Dirty Dingo engine mounts, which is the most popular swap mounts that people use. With my truck, I had a 4.3 V6, so I actually had to get new clamshells. The V6 frame mounts don't work, so I had to take those out, put the V8 clamshells in, and then hook the Dirty Dingo mounts to them. All right, the Dirty Dingo mounts are adjustable, so that allowed me to slide the engine and the transmission right back into place, which allowed me to not have to change my drive shaft. Also, it allowed my 5-speed to line right back up in the same spot. So that's another plus for the Dirty Dingo mounts. Next up is the parts that it took to make the 5-speed to the 5.3. And I'm gonna put those right here. You need an NFW1050 flywheel. Then you need a 1377C throwout bearing for an external slave 5-speed, which is mine is external slave. And then you need the Loop 04-201 clutch. That's what I use to make the 5-speed to this 5.3. All right, so after we dropped the engine in, we ran our heater core lines, our heater hoses, ran them right off the firewall. Ran them in the stock location, right here. And of course, ran them right to the water pump. Then with this steam port coming off of right on top of the engine in front of the intake right here, if you can see it, we ran that off and we adapted it to the radiator. But we used a radiator out of a 454 truck, which is a 2-row radiator. It's really bigger than we actually needed. You want to go with the 34-inch, so this is 34-inch radiator, but you didn't have to necessarily have a 2-row or 1-row radiator would be fine. But the 454 radiators come with this extra nipple on the top right here, so I adapted it and brung the steam port right here, and didn't have to tap the water pump or find some other way to do it. There's a few ways to do it. All right, next, we went with electric fan. We got ours out of a 2005 Suburban. They fall right into place. What I did is I cut them just right. If you look at this, there used to be an ear right here that comes here to here. I cut it just right to where enough of this ear is underneath this radiator mount. It's not going nowhere. It is solid. So that's how I mounted mine. A lot of people online was trying to figure out how to mount them, and I felt like that was the best way. So that works real well. And at the bottom, it just falls into place. Well, right up from the power steering hose and all that, it just sits right in place down there. I have a lot going on right over here. So I mounted, my engine is a drive-by wire. As you can see, it's not drive-by cable. So I had to take the tach module and use it along with the intake and the pedal. So this is the tach module. Of course, it goes to the wire harness, the main wire harness right here. And I brought it around and I drilled a hole. Well, that was the old throttle cable hole. I drilled it out bigger, put a grommet in it, and I ran the tach module to the inside where it plugs right in. All right, so how I mounted this pedal is I use an adapter. You can see I painted it black, but there's an adapter that basically mounts to the old pedal location, but has another side for you to mount the new pedal. So that's how I got the electronic drive-by-wire pedal in. I mounted this tach module right here, where I believe the cruise control module would be if the truck had cruise control, but mine didn't. So I actually mounted it right in the same spot and used some of the same holes. I think I used all three of these were the same holes. So that's how I mounted my tach module. All right, the next step for me was figuring out where to hook my PCM up. Because like I said, I got a lot of space right here that's being taken up by the ABS box and the fuses and all that. I took the charcoal canister out and just put a filter on it. And I mounted a bracket. I had a metal bracket cut and welded it in here. And so now my PCM is rock solid, and use the Dirty Dingo PCM mount, which is screwed into the metal bracket. Then I cut up this OEM cover, and it fits right on the top. Sometimes I like to use it, sometimes I don't. I kind of go back and forth with it. So it just fits just like that right over the top. This truck came with the battery on the driver's side, on the passenger side, I'm sorry. And a lot of the later models come with the battery over there. So what I did is I got an intake from my H2 Hummer, and it goes this way. And it mounts perfect in that spot. And what I did, I got creative. There's a little lip down here. What I did was, I didn't want this thing just hanging, which is what it was doing at first. So I bent a little rod, and these holes were already in the fender. So it's a nut on the bottom. This is just a 12-inch rod that I got from Lowe's. And I bring it through here with 2 nuts. And it's sturdy, it's solid, it's not going nowhere. If you can see under here, that's it right there. Barely coming through, I mean, not even a ½ inch. So that's how I did the intake. The last final piece was the wire harness. This wire harness took 6 months to make. I sent off the 95 harness to the truck, and I sent off the 2001 harness from the 5.3 and had a guy merge them together for a plug and play harness. It was supposed to take 3 months. It ended up taking 6 months. So there's plenty of harness builders out there and different companies that can do your harness, and probably a lot quicker. So that was the last part, getting the harness made, and it fired right up. After getting the harness made and getting everything to fire up, we had to take the truck and get it tuned. So whoever's in your area that can tune LS vehicles, that'll be your final step to get it road ready, is to get it tuned. And we used a fellow named Charles Barber out of Greenville, South Carolina. He did a fantastic job. That video is actually on my channel, which you can take a look at it, and shows the process of us getting it tuned that day. I guess the last part of LS swapping the vehicle is putting some kind of LS badge on it somewhere. I didn't necessarily want to have it on the outside and let people know what was in it. So I got me a little LS badge right here on the firewall. Ooh. So that's the last step. You got to put an LS badge on it somewhere. We'll crank it up and let you see how All turned out. Bray, come crank it up. Make sure it's in neutral. All right, crank it up. It worked out real well. So we're gonna work on our second vehicle very soon, which is the white 91 that y'all have seen. So hopefully we'll have that one LS swapped and we'll take you through that whole process as well. So that's it. It's not hard. Don't let it scare you. Y'all can do it. We'll holler at y'all.